How's everybody doing today? Hey? But anyways, it is Mr. Anonymous, you know. But today we speak for the ones that signed with an X in 1905, you know. Canada, come sit by the fire, you know. Come listen. You know, we need to talk about 1905, you know. We need to talk about the papers you call Treaty 9, you know. You know, you brought a priest to speak for us, Father Fafford. You know, he no Cree, he no Ojibwe, but there's no words in our language, you know. No word in our language for sell your mother forever, you know. No word in our language for give up the bones of your ancestors, you know. No word for sign away your children's future for $4. Did you know that? Nope. So what did our chiefs hear, you know? What did they understand? You know, they heard share the land, you know, live in peace, hunt like always, you know. They heard you use the land, we still own it, you know. They heard as long as the sun shines and the rivers flow, we'll share this land together, you know. That's what they heard, you know. Ask yourself, Canada, who gives their home away for $4 a year? Who signs away the graves of their grandparents? Who trades the river that feeds your babies, you know, for a flag and for a handshake? Nobody does that. Not if they understand, right? You know, Muñoz, 1905, he knew, you know. He said it at Fort Hope in 1905, you know. He said, it has never been my experience to receive something for nothing, you know. He knew in his gut, he knew the deal was wrong, but the papers were already printed, you know. The priest said sign, and they trusted, you know. They trusted. That is not consent. That is not agreement. That's misunderstanding. Right? And look what that misunderstanding cost us, you know. You know, you can you know, you see our hardships every day, but do you feel them? You know, do you feel the mold in our houses treaty promised to keep us safe? You know, feel the toothache the toothache we carry because the dentist only comes twice a year, you know, or feel feel the boy feel the way the boy who died waiting for a medevac, you know, while while the mining trucks kept passing by, you know, or feel the mother who buried her son because the water he drank, you know, was poisoned, you know. Feel the law that jails us faster than it protects us, you know. Feel the health system that hands us Tylenol for broken treaties. You know, we did not sign up for this, for any of this, you know. We signed to we signed for peace. We signed to share, you know. We never signed to suffer, you know. So here is our message, you know. Canada, not from anger but from truth, you know. We did not sell our home. We can't we you cannot buy what what we never what we never sold. You know, you cannot buy what was never sold. You know, we did not give up our land. You know, you cannot surrender what you didn't understand, is what I'm saying. You know, we still hold the keys. You know, if you want to stay, you ask. You know, if you wanna build, we decide. If you want to prosper, we prosper first. You know, you want reconciliation? Yeah? Then we need a new signing, but this time at our table. This time in our language, you know, this time with our youth, with our elders, with our mothers, you know, all in one room, you know. This time no priest guessing, you know. This time with no paper already printed, you know. You know, we don't want your pity. We don't want your apology. You know, we want the contract. We want the contract honored the way our chiefs heard it. You know, share the land, share the wealth. You know, share the decisions. You know, to every First Nation from home, from to coast, you know. Hold your head up, hold your heads up, you know. Your grandparents did not sell you out, you know. They were misled, you know. And we are here to correct it. Hey? You know, to Canada. To Canada, you know. You have lived in our houses for 120 years, you know. The rent is due. The lease needs rewriting. And this time we decide if we sign, you know. We are not a footnote in your history, No, we are the landlords of this country, you know, and we remember what our chiefs actually said, right? Never forget who you are, where we come from, you know. This is our land. Who would sell their home like that without understanding it, right? Right. But yes, this is Mr. Unanonymous. Yes, you did not. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much. Love you guys. Peace out.